What if the love you were forced to hide came back to shatter your world? Jameson stood on the wide wooden porch of his childhood home in the quiet suburbs just outside Chicago, the late afternoon sun casting long golden shadows across the perfectly trimmed lawn. 10 years had vanished since the night his father slammed that same door in his face, but the memory still burned like fresh acid. At 35, Jameson carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who had built a tech empire from nothing in San Francisco, yet his heart hammered as if he were still the scared 25-year-old who had dared to say the words out loud. Beside him, Giovanni rested a steady hand on his shoulder, his dark Italian-American features calm but alert, the faint scent of his cologne mixing with the familiar smell of cut grass and Midwest summer air. "You sure about this, Jay?" Giovanni asked softly, his voice carrying the slight New York edge they both knew so well. Jameson nodded once, swallowing hard. "I have to be. They deserve the truth, even if it breaks us again." The front door creaked open before he could knock. Elena, his mother, froze in the doorway, her once vibrant red hair now streaked with silver, her blue eyes widening in disbelief. "Jameson? My God, is that really you?" Her voice cracked on his name. She stepped forward instinctively, arms half raised, then stopped short when she noticed Giovanni. The silence stretched like a taut wire. Behind her, heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway. Robert appeared, tall and still imposing at 68, his face hardening the instant he registered the scene. "What the hell are you doing here?" he growled, ignoring Elena's pleading glance. Jameson lifted his chin. "I came because I heard about the company troubles, Dad. And because 10 years is long enough to pretend none of this happened." Robert's jaw clenched. "Company troubles? You think you can just waltz back after what you did?" Elena placed a trembling hand on her husband's arm. "Robert, please. Let them inside. It's been too long." They moved into the living room like strangers navigating a minefield. The same plaid couch, the same family photos on the mantel, except the ones with Jameson had been removed years ago. Marcus, his younger brother, wandered in from the kitchen holding a beer, his expression shifting from surprise to something colder. "Well, look who decided to play hero," he muttered. Giovanni stayed close but silent, letting Jameson lead. Over the next hour, the conversation stayed surface level. Jameson's flight from San Francisco, the mild weather, anything but the elephant in the room. Yet every glance between Jameson and Giovanni carried weight. Elena kept stealing looks at their linked hands, her face softening with something that looked almost like relief. Robert barely spoke, his knuckles white around his coffee mug. When dusk settled outside, Jameson finally said it plainly. "I didn't come alone. Giovanni and I have been together for 8 years. He's the reason I survived after you threw me out." The room went still. Robert stood so fast the chair scraped loudly. "Get out. Both of you." But this time Jameson didn't flinch. "No, Dad. Not until we talk. Really talk." Elena's eyes filled with tears. She quickly blinked away, and for the first time in a decade, the family that had once shattered began to feel the first faint cracks of something new trying to form. The tension lingered in the air like smoke from a dying fire, as Elena quietly set extra places at the dinner table despite Robert's protests. Jameson and Giovanni sat across from Marcus, who kept his eyes fixed on his plate. Outside, the neighborhood lights flickered on one by one, reminding Jameson how normal everything once looked from this window. He had replayed this moment in his head during countless sleepless nights in San Francisco boardrooms and quiet evenings with Giovanni in their loft overlooking the bay. But reality felt sharper, heavier. "You built that app company from scratch?" Elena asked tentatively, passing the mashed potatoes. Jameson nodded. "Pivot Tech. We went public last year." "It wasn't luck, Mom. It was survival," Giovanni added gently. "He worked 18-hour days at first. I kept him fed and sane." The word "I" hung there, a quiet claim on the life Jameson had made without them. Robert pushed his chair back. "Survival? You call abandoning your family survival?" Jameson met his father's gaze steadily. "You abandoned me the night I told you I loved a man. Remember? You said I was no son of yours." The memory flooded back uninvited. 10 years earlier, in this exact house, Jameson had come home from his first real job in Chicago, heart pounding with the need to be honest. Giovanni wasn't in the picture yet, but the truth was already there, burning inside him. Robert had exploded, fists on the table, words like disgrace and choice flying like shrapnel. Elena had cried silently in the corner, while Marcus stared in stunned silence. Jameson had packed a single duffel bag and walked into the cold night, catching a bus to New York City with nothing but a college degree and a shattered sense of self. There, in a crowded marketing conference, he had met Giovanni, then a sharp-eyed consultant with a quick laugh and the patience to listen when Jameson finally admitted why he had left home. Their connection grew slowly, late-night talks in coffee shops, shared walks through Central Park, the gradual realization that love didn't have to feel like hiding. When Giovanni suggested moving west together, Jameson had said yes without hesitation. The business took off, but the wound from Chicago never closed. Now, sitting at the same table, Jameson saw the toll those years had taken on everyone. Elena's hands trembled as she poured water. Marcus kept glancing at Giovanni with poorly masked disdain. "So what? You're here to rub it in our faces." Marcus finally snapped. Giovanni remained composed. "We're here because Jameson still cares, even after everything." Robert muttered something under his breath and left the room. Later that night, in the guest bedroom that still smelled faintly of Jameson's teenage years, he and Giovanni lay side by side on the old double bed. "They're hurting too," Giovanni whispered, tracing a finger along Jameson's jaw. "But pain doesn't give them the right to keep punishing you." Jameson turned to face him, the city lights from the window casting soft patterns across Giovanni's face. "I know. But seeing Mom's eyes tonight, maybe there's a chance." Sleep came slowly, filled with fragments of the past and the fragile hope of tomorrow. Downstairs, Elena sat alone in the kitchen, staring at an old photo she had hidden in a drawer, one of Jameson at 17, smiling wide before everything changed. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to wonder if forgiveness could still be possible. Morning light filtered through the lace curtains, and the house stirred with uneasy normalcy. Elena insisted on making breakfast, pancakes, eggs, the kind of spread that once signaled weekends together. Jameson helped set the table, while Giovanni stepped outside to take a work call, giving the family a moment of privacy. Robert stayed upstairs longer than usual, but eventually descended, his face etched with exhaustion rather than outright anger. "We're not done talking," he said gruffly, pouring coffee. Marcus had left early for his construction job, muttering about not playing happy family. That left the three of them. Elena spoke first, her voice softer than Jameson remembered. "I never stopped thinking about you, son. Every birthday, every holiday, I prayed you were safe." Jameson reached across the table. "I was." Giovanni made sure of it. She nodded, a small smile breaking through. "He seems good for you." "Kind eyes." Robert cleared his throat. "Kind doesn't change what's right." But the fight had gone out of his tone overnight, replaced by something heavier, regret, perhaps. As the day unfolded, Jameson took Giovanni on a walk through the old neighborhood. They passed the park where Jameson had played Little League, the corner store that still sold the same candy. "This place hasn't changed," Giovanni observed, squeezing his hand openly now that they were away from the house. "But you have. You're stronger." Jameson laughed quietly. "Stronger because of you. Back then I was so scared. Of losing them. Of losing myself." He told Giovanni about the nights he had cried in cheap New York apartments, questioning if love was worth the cost. Giovanni had been the anchor, patient through Jameson's panic attacks, steady during the early business failures, the one who reminded him that being gay wasn't a flaw but a truth worth living. Their relationship had deepened in San Francisco, weekend hikes in Marin, quiet evenings cooking Italian recipes Giovanni's grandmother taught him. No drama, just two men building something real against the odds. Back at the house, Elena pulled Jameson aside in the hallway. "Your father's been sick, you know. Heart issues. The company's struggling because he won't let anyone help. Marcus tries, but," she hesitated. "I think he scared you were right all along." Jameson felt the weight of that confession. Later, over lunch, Robert surprised everyone by asking about Pivot Tech, real questions about markets and growth, not accusations. Giovanni shared stories from their life in California, keeping it light, focusing on the work they did together rather than the intimacy. Tension eased in small increments, A shared laugh when Giovanni burned the toast, Elena asking for his mother's recipe. Marcus returned in the afternoon, still guarded but less hostile. By evening, the four of them sat on the porch watching fireflies, the conversation turning to neutral ground: sports, weather, old neighbors. Giovanni caught Jameson's eye across the group and gave a subtle nod. Progress. Yet underneath, Jameson sensed the deeper cracks waiting to surface. That night, alone again, he whispered to Giovanni, "I think Mom's ready." "That I don't know." Giovanni pulled him close. "One step. That's all we need right now." The house settled into silence, but the air felt different, charged with possibility instead of pure rejection. The fragile peace shattered on the third day when a local news van parked across the street. Someone, Marcus, it turned out, had tipped them off after a heated phone call with an old high school buddy. "Gay millionaire returns to fix dad's mess," the headline teased on their phones. Robert slammed his newspaper down. "This is what you brought here? Public shame." Marcus crossed his arms. "People deserve to know the truth. You're not the hero, Jameson. You're the reason this family's been whispered about for years." Giovanni stepped forward calmly. "Whispers don't pay medical bills or save a company. Jameson does." The argument spilled into the backyard, voices rising under the bright midday sun. Neighbors peeked from windows. Elena stood between them, tears streaming. "Stop, all of you. This isn't helping." Jameson felt the old panic rising, the same helplessness he had felt at 25. But this time he chose differently. "Marcus, you're mad because I left and made something of myself. I get it. But leaking this, that's betrayal." Marcus looked away, shame flickering briefly. Robert's face flushed with a mix of fury and something closer to fear. "The board will see this. Clients will pull out." That afternoon, Jameson and Giovanni drove to the family company's small warehouse downtown. Robert reluctantly joined them. Inside, amid boxes and outdated equipment, Jameson laid out a simple plan. His team in San Francisco could consult remotely, no strings. Giovanni added marketing ideas that could rebrand the failing logistics firm. Robert listened, arms crossed, but didn't interrupt. On the ride back, he finally spoke. "I never hated you for being that way. I hated that you chose it over us." Jameson pulled the car over. "It was never a choice, Dad. It was who I am. And Giovanni isn't a choice either. He's my partner, my family now." The words landed like stones in still water. Robert stared out the window for a long minute. "Your mother cried for months after you left. I told myself it was for the best." Back home, Elena had cooked a big Italian meal, Giovanni's influence showing in the pasta sauce. Marcus joined quietly, offering a mumbled apology over dessert. Society's prejudice still loomed. Phone calls came from old friends with awkward questions, but the family circle tightened instead of fracturing. Giovanni and Jameson took a quiet evening walk along the lake path nearby, hands linked without fear for the first time in days. "You're facing it all," Giovanni said proudly. "Not running." Jameson smiled. "Because I finally stopped hiding, from them and from myself." The high school rumors and small-town stares no longer defined him. He was home, not as the boy they lost, but as the man who had learned to stand tall. Misunderstanding struck like lightning on the fifth evening. A tabloid article twisted the story, claiming Jameson had returned only to seize control of the family business, using his lifestyle as leverage. Marcus read it aloud at dinner, voice thick with accusation. "See? I knew it. You're using Dad's illness to take over." Giovanni set his fork down. "That's not true, and you know it." But doubt crept into Robert's eyes. Elena looked between them, torn. Jameson felt the ground shift beneath him, the same betrayal he had feared when he left years ago. "After everything we've talked about, you still believe this?" The room erupted. Robert demanded proof of intentions. Marcus stormed out. Giovanni pulled Jameson aside in the hallway. "Maybe we should go back to San Francisco. This is tearing you apart." For the first time, Jameson hesitated. The weight of old wounds and new doubts pressed hard. That night he lay awake, replaying every conversation. Had he come back for the right reasons? Love for Giovanni had always been his anchor, yet family pulled like an undertow. Giovanni sensed the distance and whispered, "I'll support whatever you decide. But don't lose yourself proving anything to them." The next morning brought crisis. Robert suffered a mild chest episode, stress, the doctor said at the ER. In the waiting room, Elena gripped Jameson's hand. He's scared, not angry. Scared he lost you forever because he was too stubborn. Marcus arrived, eyes red. I shouldn't have leaked anything. I was jealous you got out, made it big. The confession cracked the last barrier. Giovanni stayed by Jameson's side through the long hours, fetching coffee, reminding him to breathe. When Robert woke, he asked for both of them. I was wrong, he admitted hoarsely. About a lot. Seeing you two together, it reminded me of what I threw away with my own brother years ago. The family secret spilled out. Robert's younger brother had been gay, disowned in the 1970s, died alone. No one had spoken of it since. Tears flowed freely. Jameson forgave in that moment, not because it erased pain, but because understanding replaced blame. Back home, the group gathered around Robert's bed. Giovanni shared stories of their life, simple, loving moments that painted a picture of partnership, not threat. Misunderstandings dissolved into honest dialogue. Jameson realized the sacrifice wasn't leaving again. It was staying and letting love reshape everything. That evening, under a clear sky, he and Giovanni stood on the porch alone. We almost broke, Jameson said. Giovanni smiled. But we didn't. That's the point. The internal storm had passed, leaving clarity in its wake. The final days unfolded with a quiet rhythm that felt like healing. Robert's health stabilized, and the company board accepted Jameson's remote assistance plan, proof that love and business could coexist. Marcus began helping with logistics, his prejudice softening into respect after long talks with Giovanni about loyalty and growth. Elena thrived, hosting small gatherings where neighbors slowly shifted from gossip to genuine curiosity. One evening, the whole family sat in the backyard under string lights, sharing stories late into the night. Jameson recounted the early struggles in New York, how Giovanni's steady presence had turned fear into purpose. Giovanni spoke of his own journey, coming out to his Italian family in Brooklyn, facing similar rejection but finding his way through community and faith in love. Robert listened without interruption, nodding at moments that mirrored his own buried regrets. I see now, he said finally. Family isn't about agreeing on everything. It's about showing up anyway. On the last morning before their flight back to San Francisco, Jameson and Giovanni packed in the guest room. Elena hugged them both tightly. Come back soon. Both of you. Robert shook Giovanni's hand, first time ever, and clapped Jameson on the back. Proud of the man you became. Sorry it took me so long. Marcus offered a genuine smile and a promise to visit. As the car pulled away from the curb, Jameson glanced in the rearview mirror at the house that no longer felt like a prison. Giovanni rested a hand on his knee. You did it. We all did. The drive to the airport passed in comfortable silence, the weight of 10 years lifting with every mile. Back in San Francisco weeks later, life resumed with new depth, weekly calls home, shared plans for holidays. The journey had transformed them all. Jameson no longer carried shame. Giovanni felt fully welcomed. The family learned acceptance wasn't weakness but strength. Society's stares still existed, but they no longer dictated choices. In quiet moments, Jameson reflected on the path, from disownment to reunion, from hiding to living openly. Love had been the bridge, family the destination they rebuilt together. Reflecting on this tale, I see that true courage isn't about never feeling fear. It's about walking through it with honesty. Families can change when we stop demanding perfection and start offering understanding. The lesson is clear. Hiding who you are only deepens wounds, but embracing your truth, even when it shakes the ground beneath you, opens doors to deeper connections and real growth. Never sacrifice your heart to please others. Love boldly, forgive patiently, and watch how one honest return can heal what years of silence broke.